DDG episode 192. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
How's it going, Dave? And again, we've been doing this for 3 years. I got a haircut. You didn't comment on it.
Your headphones are too big.
But compared to what my hair looked like the last couple
Dude,
weeks.
I get a haircut like every month, and you never know.
That's true. Every time it shifts a little further back. I don't.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what you meant? Okay. Thank you, Angela.
I get my beard trimmed too, just for the record.
That's
by
true.
Somebody other than myself.
That's true. Your beard is always trimmed properly, it seems.
Does not. Well, it's if you get really close to it, it goes in like a bazillion different directions.
I see on stream. That's a good beard. This is my beard, Dave. This is a week and a half of not shaving. So yeah, this is obviously Digital Days Gaming, Dave, where we talk about facial hair, I guess, and haircuts.
Lack of facial hair.
Yeah.
I still to this day, man, I want to do a logo for us that's like. You'd have to look up the Scott Van Pelt Sports Center logo.
I know which one. It's just like the silhouette.
Yeah, so for me it would be a beard with glasses and nothing on top, and for you it'd be top with glasses and nothing on the bottom.
Exactly. Yeah. It'd be that.
And then you add the headphones.
Or maybe
in
in Windows Paint when you do the spray paint thing, that would be my facial hair. It's like the lowest setting of the paint.
The splatter.
Yeah. It'd be that.
All right, as he mentioned, we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts on podcast services on Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. We live stream on Twitch Tuesday or Wednesday night, usually around 9 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming. I normally don't do this, but I will plug just for September in general. Twitch runs a stream, or a promotion, for their streamers called September, where you get half off subs. I retweeted something a couple days ago that I thought was super interesting. I don't know if you saw this or not, Michael, either, but I don't have the exact figures. But if you decided that you wanted to support us and you want to just say, hey, I just want to throw some money at them one time, or do whatever you want to do to support us, it looked like a 6-month sub was like $105 or something like that. Well, maybe that's too. I don't. But the amount of money that the creator got to keep is like 90%. So
During
right now
this
it's
month,
like 50. During this month, because they're offering a percentage off of subs. It was like 100 something because it was a tier 3 6-month sub. Mm-hmm. It's like $105 or $110, normally like $220. And the content creator got to keep like $92 of it.
Yeah.
So in terms of if you even wanted to sub to us for one time, which would typically cost you like $5.99, it's $2.99, and I think we get like $2.70 of it.
Yeah, as opposed to usual where it's like, is it like 70-30? Is that the Amazon cut?
Something something like that. Yeah. So, but anyways, if it's something you've been thinking about doing and you want to do that, it's on sale. So this is a really cool time to sub to us. If you already sub to us, thank you. If you have Twitch Prime, you can use a free sub on a streamer. If you use that on us, thank you as well. But as always, downloading the show, sharing, reviewing, and following are all free, and those help us grow into more forms of media for other people to hopefully consume, whether it's in their car or podcasting or whatever they're doing, cutting the grass, cleaning, or whatever they're doing. So everything else for us is linked in the show notes. You can join the communities, whether it's through Facebook, Discord. You can follow us on Twitter. All that stuff is all linked in the show notes, as well as direct access to the website with all the other podcasts, previous podcasts that we've done for the last X years. I can't remember the number right now. So all right, we're going to throw it into some news.
Yeah, we have a little bit of news this week. Nothing crazy because the entire internet is playing Starfield, even though, no one was going to play it. So the first bit of news is stuff we don't usually cover, DLC announcements, but I thought it was interesting knowing the story behind this game the last couple weeks or couple months since it released. But Square Enix has announced that Final Fantasy XVI is getting DLC and a PC version. So during PAX West, the director, Yoshi P, said that they were releasing like a big patch with a bunch of requests from fans, but also that they are now going to get started on 2 expansions for the game, 2 DLC content for the game, and no release date or anything. Like, work is just starting, because originally they were saying there weren't really any plans for DLC. They'd have to see how well the game did before making those decisions. which is funny just because not too long ago Square Enix was like, yeah, it didn't really hit our expectations. So,
but there's enough copies out there to warrant adding some more DLC to it.
Yeah,
it just means they can package it as a Game of the Year edition and sell it like 3 times now.
Yeah, just to pump that out. And also along with this is that a PC port is happening. Yoshi P, I believe, was the one that said during the panel, he's like, PlayStation has a 6-month exclusive for the game, but that does not mean the PC port is coming out in 6 months. He like wanted to make that very clear. Like, just because the exclusivity deal runs out does not mean a PC port's going to happen overnight. And basically more info on the PC port and the DLC should come out towards the end of the year. So more content coming. Dave, thoughts on this? The weird Square Enix of it all.
Yeah. I mean, anytime a game is deemed successful enough, I don't care what company you are, to do additional content to it, similar to TMNT Shredder's Revenge or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, now getting additional characters and additional levels. And even I saw something this week that the studio came out and said that they're open to a sequel or other nostalgic brawler beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
Is fantastic because I would love to see them touch. It's .emu, right?
.emu published it. I don't know if they were actually developed it.
But I would love to see like a remastering or a rethinking of like Double Dragon or something, like in terms of stuff that they could do. But anyway, it's just like, it's weird that Square Enix said what they said about the expectations and the numbers of the game, but that now it's DLCs being planned. And it's interesting that they openly came out and said the 6-month window, as well as not saying how soon anything is coming. You would assume with the connectivity between the two that a PC port and an Xbox release would probably go hand in hand. Do you agree?
Yeah, especially if the PC port hasn't been started just yet, and they just announced, was it 2 months ago now? A month ago? That like, hey, we will be bringing more Square Enix games to Xbox. I would assume this would probably be the first big one that they would try bringing over.
Yeah, and again, everybody hates to hear it, and PlayStation should do the same thing. I could see, depending on if it's 9, 10, 11 months that you get in, and these DLCs are Square Enix Final Fantasy DLCs, which are usually pretty beefy, that they give Final Fantasy 16 either at a massive discount for Plus members or Plus Game Pass subscribers, as well as, or just give the base game in hopes that you spark DLC sales.
Yeah, I like, if I was Square and like say it is going to take a year for them to get the first expansion pass out, or maybe both, because most likely the expansions, the DLC is like cut content that they already kind of started work on, and now they're just like, let's go for it fully.
No.
Yeah,
no
I hate to
way.
tell you that, Dave. Sometimes that content is cut content. So I would imagine, like, if you could plan it out properly, you have the Game of the Year edition kind of come out like relatively quickly after the second expansion hits. And then
a holiday next year would probably be ideal.
I would hope maybe they can work on summer for the first one, and then a holiday for the second one, so then they can put out a Game of the Year one out. And then in that time, you put the base game on Plus, on Game Pass, and then, hope that gets people to buy DLC. And if it doesn't, hey, they'll buy the Game of the Year edition during the holidays.
Right. Well, especially if you think, if Square thinks the game didn't hit expectations. So if they feel like the game didn't hit expectations, then you help bolster that by getting it in more people's hands and playing it, and then them and hopefully enjoying it, and then buying the additional stuff, because that does happen. Statistically, we've seen that happen. Whether it's I'm broad things. Uncharted 1 being put on Plus, 3 months before Uncharted 2 comes out.
That used to be the old school PS Plus model. Like, you get that thing like 3 months.
And the reason they did that is because it put the game front and center in front of people's mind, and when additional stuff came out. The best example that I think, Killzone Incursion, a cooperative mode that came out for Killzone Shadowfall. That was very similar. I think that they gave, either the game was severely on sale, or it was part of a Plus collection, or they did the free trial stuff, and it was because that DLC was coming out, or that new modes and stuff were coming out, and they wanted to spark interest in it. So those are things that you could do all the time. Again, circling back to, especially if you feel like the game did not meet your expectations, then if the game didn't meet your expectations, the DLC won't.
Yeah, especially we learned with I think Call of Duty was Activision was one of the first devs to be like, each time we release an expansion, like less and less people buy it each time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're announcing 2, you're already knowing like, okay, the 3 million people that bought it, maybe we get 30% to 50% of those people to buy the first expansion, and then we know that the second one we're going to get even less than that. Because I don't know exactly what the expectations are for DLC at this point. And you mentioned earlier, like, you would imagine like some paid like expansions for a Final Fantasy game. There's expectations in terms of like size and scope for what that would be. And well, I mean, I guess traditionally Final Fantasy doesn't really do expansions, but Square Enix games have done expansions before, so you have an expectation for Square Enix to put out some like.
Yeah, I mean, they did the Final Fantasy VII remake, and then they did that other thing. I can't think of the name of it. Right, Integrate, and then there's another thing coming. So like maybe not. They call them like episodes, but they're expansions. They're just thinking of fancy names other than expansions, and to get away from the word seasonal or expansion, because those are kind of like weird words now. But I think it's cool. Like anything in general, like this is a game that's kind of on my radar, but it might just be a little farther down my radar. A lot of people are saying, in terms of like a hack and slash style third person game, like it's top tier.
Yeah, this is on my list for like end of the year sort of stuff that I just want to like dabble in it. So seeing this, the patch stuff seemed pretty cool.
The PC port kind of sparks my interest more to wait, just because. Which
is fair enough. Yeah,
I'm not saying it's gonna run any better, but from an ease of use standpoint for me right now, it's slowly more fast than slow, but I'm trying not. I'm going more heavy on PC with my ability to stream easily from this PC when I do stream, and the ROG Ally is becoming, more of a factor in my choices. I have no idea how this would or wouldn't run on the Ally, but
yeah, but you would imagine like Steam Deck has taken off enough that like support for like the Ally is benefiting a lot from Steam Deck's popularity. So
they just released a specific driver just for Starfield on the Ally.
Yeah.
I don't know if it came on the Steam Deck too, but a graphics driver update came out with Starfield.
Yeah. So, which, Dave, you're going to get used to that. That is a common thing now where like big game releases and then you get a specific driver for that, which is always great when that does happen, especially when they do it around launch, which shows you that they like worked with people to like, okay, we got to make sure this hits. But yeah, Final Fantasy DLC is coming. Yoshi P, very, very busy doing some DLC. Also still running Final Fantasy XIV, which he said he wanted to do for another 10 years. So we'll see what else they throw at him. He's basically kind of turned into Square Enix's like new Nomura. And Nomura was the original, not the original, but like the Final Fantasy VII and Up director, as well as Kingdom Hearts. Yeah. He was like their go-to. And it seems like Yoshi P is kind of getting into that position to where like if Square needs a game made, they go to that person to direct it.
Yeah.
So it's always good to see like that next in succession. I mean, we're kind of seeing that with like Nintendo a little bit in terms of who they have like taken over the Zelda series, who they have taken over all the other stuff, as like Miyamoto focuses on different things. The next bit, we kind of talked about this just a little bit last week, Dave, but we didn't have a release date. Sony's PSP 2 is what I'm going with. The PlayStation Portal does have a price of $200, like we talked about last week, but it is now coming in November, specifically November 15th. Sony Direct is going to have it, and I think they might be opening it up to other select retailers, but we just haven't got those pre-orders live just yet. But yeah, September 29th, the pre-orders will start hitting those other retailers. But right now, PlayStation Direct, you can pre-order it.
So I dug into this a little bit more. There was a couple of hands-on things that came out prior to the release date, right around the price came out. This is a glorified controller with a screen. It is a DualSense. It's a full DualSense, haptic feedback, everything like that, and it has the screen. I don't know how much research you've done, and I could be misunderstanding this, but I don't think it supports anything except for PlayStation audio files, like audio stuff.
Unless you have it does have a aux port, so you can plug in headphones for it, but it does not have Bluetooth.
I can't. Right, so I can't just use my Turtle Beach Bluetooth headphones on this. I can't just use my Apple AirPods or my Samsung earbuds or anything like that. I cannot use those.
No, I don't think so. Though technically your PS5 is on. So in theory, you can Bluetooth to that.
Yeah, you want to talk about lag city?
No, I
there,
know.
homie?
You're just like introducing stuff. It completely breaks if you're not within 10 feet of your
and
system.
again, I don't. So here again, I have a device that costs 3 times as much as this costs that should be able to do this better. like my ROG. I know it's different. My ROG Ally it's a different scenario. If you are somebody that, has one TV in your house, and sometimes there are debates about what you're going to use said TV for. 100% get this. Supposedly this has some type of different chip in it to run remote play better than any other device, allegedly.
Well, usually when you have a device that's specific, like it has one thing that it's supposed to do, it tends to do it a little bit better than...
If this can do remote play near flawlessly, it might be something that ends up showing up on my radar possibly, but I would push back that if they can make this device do remote play near flawlessly, they need to update the ability for the other devices to do it. Again, I still have not tested remote play in my house since I upgraded to fiber internet, which I have seen a substantial improvement in my internet from multiple things, but I have not tried remote play. Partially because there's really nothing on PlayStation that's drawing my attention currently.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, so my internet is not nearly as good as yours, and remote play works fantastic in my situation, and it's something we dabble with. But it's like I don't mind moving to another room on one of my other consoles.
Right.
But like I said, if you have one TV, one PlayStation, this could come in handy if you have other people living with you.
Well, and in your situation too, if you want to play PlayStation, it's usually not a debate if Sarah's watching something or not. It's if Sarah's on the PlayStation.
Yeah,
so that kind of defeats remote play for you because you can't connect to it.
Well, that's why she's been playing Baldur's Gate this entire weekend, and I'm just waiting for Starfield to go out, and then there won't be any situation of like waiting for a system to be available.
I picture whenever you guys get your final or your I wouldn't call it final, but your long-term destination, I'm going to see these like 2 40-inch TVs next to each other with like matching recliners.
And I hate those because like it's too distracting.
Because it draws your attention. Yeah. But there'll be this like cubicle wall between them enough that you can see each other, but you can't see the screen.
I would have to do what people used to do for GoldenEye, where they'd get cardboard and put it on their TV so people couldn't cheat. So like this is one of those things where like I talked about like. I would be interested in this at a cheaper price point. And I think this will, depending on how many they deliver to other retailers, will determine like if this actually goes on like a deep discount at one point. And I think like as a curiosity, as a like hardcore PlayStation fan that I am, I would probably think like 120 would probably be my price point.
But if it gets to that price point, it's failing.
No, 100%. But it doesn't mean it won't work anymore. When you pick it up, because it's just a remote.
Yeah,
play device.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't do enough research on the screen, but like, is the screen worth $120? Because that's kind of what you're talking about. Like that, between
it's
a
an
DualSense
LCD
and
screen, so it's going to be like. Similar to like what the current Switch is, not the OLED, the current base Switch, probably a little bit better since it's like nicer Sony technology.
But that's essentially a DualSense is like $70 now, right?
Yeah,
$70-$80.
Yeah, it's like 69 to 74 depending on if you have a fancy color.
Yep. And then you're talking about $120 for the screen.
So like
it just means that
$40 to $50 screen.
Yeah. Do you have enough confidence in remote play in your house? But my question is, like, let's say you went to your parents' house for dinner. Do you have enough confidence in your remote play ability between 2 different networks?
The thing is, like, I'm not, like... I love video games, but I'm not, like, that attached to, like, I can walk away from
no. I'm not debating that at all. I'm just as an option. How do you think this would work? Because I think you've said before, like, your parents live locally, right?
Yeah, they live locally, yeah.
Yeah. So like it's something like you wanted to,
They
hey,
have
you're gonna.
AT&T, so it would not work at all because they're AT&T.
Okay.
They pay for like the baseline, like 50 down.
Okay.
So
That's where the thing is like I just feel like, to your point, like if you really wanted to play Baldur's Gate 3 on your PlayStation 5 and Sarah had the TV, you would move the PlayStation.
yeah, the thing is about like this sort of thing with just my playstyle, like it would just be out of a curiosity because I like collecting like odds and ends of PlayStation stuff. So
Yeah.
literally it would just be for a collecting purpose. There's just like a huge moth in Dave's camera.
Yep.
Uh,
Joys of my basement in the summer.
yeah. We had a
End of summer.
cricket that got into our apartment 2 days ago and it was really annoying. It got in at like 1 a.m.
Oh no.
Like I went to go throw out garbage around midnight or something, and a moth came in, or a cricket.
I'm actually with the crappy camera I use for you with Discord. I'm amazed you saw that thing.
It just kind of looked like a lens flare, like popped up on your screen. But like I'm curious about this from like a PlayStation collection sort of angle that I would probably use it from time to time, just to be like, oh, remember this dumb thing I bought, as opposed to this becoming like one of the primary ways I interact with my PlayStation console.
Yeah, sure.
Because right now at $200, like it sounds dumb, but like for an extra $200, I can get a Slim. Like
yeah.
digital.
So like I don't have the ability to do this, and I'm curious if you do. I know that you've talked about like you listen to podcasts or other things while you play certain games. I know that but at the same time you turn the sound all the way down on said game, and your focus is 90% of your, or I don't even know, 75% of your focus is on the game, and 25% of your focus is on the podcast.
Yeah. I'll keep the game volume like probably like 20.
Can you watch, like, could you watch a basketball game and play a game?
Dave, literally, that's how I watch wrestling. Like literally
Okay.
on my PC. Like I think I've taken pictures of it when I do it. Like one monitor, like my good monitor with HDR, will run the game, and my other monitor will run wrestling. So like I can totally do that.
I do not have the ability. I don't feel like it. Like I mean, granted, like a Lions football game, Detroit Lions football game aside, like that's kind of what I'm paying attention to. But if I'm having football on in the background and there's a good game being played, I don't think I could play a game even on my Ally and somewhat pay attention to football. I know you can like listen when the commentators get really loud, and same case for you or wrestling when the crowd cheers or there's a bunch of like the announcers get really excited, you kind of look up and look away from your game for a second. But like, so in terms of like, oh yeah, I gotta get this so I can play my PlayStation games. I can play Spider-Man while I'm watching the World Series. Like I can't do that.
Yeah, well, anytime I talk about like, oh, this is a good like podcast game, it has to be very specific games that I can do that with. It can't be like, I wouldn't do that with Starfield.
Right.
But when I was replaying Fallout 3 the last couple weeks, if I happen to be playing Fallout 3 while a wrestling show was on or while I was interested in a YouTube video, it's like the 5th time I've played Fallout 3. So like I can have something in the background and be okay with it. But
I don't have the attention span. Like I don't.
I barely have the attention span, but it has like I'm not going to do that with Spider-Man. Like when Spider-Man 2 comes out, I am just focusing on the screen.
I was just using them as examples, but like I guess the only game that I could possibly say that I think I might be able to do that with, well, 2, MLB The Show. Just because you can just you're just focused on the batter or whatever. And I, at this point in time, if I was grinding something crappy in Destiny, like I could do it. So. Which
is a lot of Destiny. Until expansion.
No, but I mean, if I wasn't doing something with most of the time when I play Destiny, I'm either playing it specifically now for story content, which I'm actively paying attention to and listening to, or I'm with another clanmate or something like that, and we're talking to each other and playing the game. Which, while I say I can't watch and play, I can't watch a game and play a game at the same time, I can have a completely different conversation with somebody while I'm playing the game. So I don't know. Maybe it's just my visuals. Yeah,
I mean, the only thing that interests me is, so it is a 1080p screen that can run 60 FPS, as opposed to the Switch, which is like 720. So that's an improvement. But I also want to know, just like, I believe people have confirmed like under it is an Android like operating system. So like at its core. Yeah. And I would just be curious about when people get to that, that core, to see like if they could
what kind of jailbreak can they do to it?
Yeah, what kind of jailbreak they can do to it. Or if it means it's updatable to where Sony could be like, hey, guess what? The PlayStation Plus app that can stream now. is on this thing.
That'd be interesting. But I also feel at this point in time that I should be able to hook a Turtle Beach Atom to my Samsung Galaxy S21. That should be able to run remote play just as good, if not better, than this device.
Yeah, you can do that, I believe, right now.
Yeah. Maybe I need to do it again. Maybe I need to resync and try again. I've had some bad experiences. I tried to play Horizon Forbidden West or Zero Dawn through, and again, maybe this PC, but not with this internet. But I tried to stream and play remote play on my PC in where I'm sitting right now, and it struggle bust the whole time.
Yeah, no,
and my PlayStation is above me.
Yeah, I would say since Horizon Zero Dawn, what was that, 2019? Yeah, I would say remote play has gotten better.
This year.
Oh, this year.
Yeah.
Well, if you tried it
this year or last year.
So you were trying to stream it as you were streaming it to remote play?
Mm-hmm.
That might have just been too much for it to handle. But again, I'm curious about this. I will not be picking it up on launch day. I will be waiting for a potential fire sale before I jump into it.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. Again, if depending on the situation you're in, if you don't always have access to the TV. Which, for the immediate future, with this writer's strike, you should be able to win the TV.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in another news story.
Tell them to tell the wife or the partner to watch their Netflix on their phone while you play on the thing, because there ain't nothing to.
Oh, get ready when your TV just gets taken over by just random influencers that now suddenly have a TV show.
Bachelorette Plus.
Yeah. Oh God. When Mr. Beast is hosting everything for this NFL season, you're just gonna be like, oh God.
When a TikToker gets their own show,
it's
their own daily news show.
It's already happening. We're a month away. But next story is a bummer, definitely for me because I like the studio. But Volition Studios is closing after 30 years. Look at that transition. I just went from laughing to hey, here's a serious story. But sadly,
professional.
Yeah, professionalism. As promised, Embracer Group has begun laying people off and has closed Volition Studios effective immediately. The studio is based out of Champaign, Illinois, and was known for work on Red Faction and a Saints Row franchise. Last year, after the poor reception for Saints Row, Volition was basically I try to find a good way to word this, but basically Embracer set Volition to move away from being a primary studio and to become a support studio for Gearbox, which I think when we talked about that last year, we were like, that's not a good sign that they went from their own studio to being a support studio for Gearbox, who already had support studios. But that was what was going to happen after Saints Row last year. We all knew layoffs were coming and closures were possible because Embracer had that $2 billion deal fall through earlier this year, and basically put out a weird announcement during the financial reports of just hey, we are laying people off, we just don't know how many, and there will be studio closures, we just don't know which ones. And it's been a couple months since they said that, and it's starting to happen now, and Volition, unfortunately, is the first studio to fall from Embracer Group's poor management or lack of direction. So Dave, studio closing. I know these news stories are always kind of hard to talk about because there's a people side to it, but then there's also the cold business side to it as well.
It sucks anytime anybody loses their job, but yeah, it does. And this studio I feel like was being mismanaged before Embracer, right?
Yeah, I mean, ever since Agents of Mayhem.
Agents of Mayhem, yeah. That was, Deep Silver was the publisher, but I'm not really sure who. I don't think anybody owned them, right?
THQ owned them until 2013. Deep Silver bought them in 2013, so 2022, and then Embracer bought them in 2022, I think. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
but Agents of Mayhem. They made something else between Agents of Mayhem and the Saints Row remake, didn't they?
I can pull up everything. Man, they made a lot of games. So Insane, Red Faction 3. Oh, their stuff is so weird on Wikipedia.
I mean, ultimately, like the Saints Row remake wasn't what people wanted. It was almost it wasn't really a Saints Row game, in my opinion, from what I've heard. But it had the Saints Row name to it.
Yeah.
They tried to do something similar with Agents of Mayhem. Tried to make a game in the Saints Row universe that didn't involve Saints Row. Didn't have co-op and stuff, which made Saints Row fun. So I just think that they overthought things, and tried to, go away, tried to maybe grab new fans while still appeasing old fans, and they lost them both.
Basically, yeah. So I looked it up. Agents of Mayhem was 2017, and they didn't release anything till Saints Row in 2022. So they went like 5 years with not knowing what to do, and then that's when we got like the Saints Row game.
A double A studio can't go that long. Sorry.
No, they can't. And then looking at
they can't go that long with 2 failures.
Yeah, 2 failures, and then also if you look at it, like Saints Row 4 was in 2013, so like they haven't had a
10-year window.
Yeah.
You had Agents of Mayhem and Saints Row remake. You can say 4 was in that, but 4 was out in 2013. It's 2023. You release 2 games in a generation, essentially a console generation, and they both kind of thud, or they do thud, compared to, maybe to your point, and since you have it in front of you, from 2013 or from 2008 or 9 to 2013, how many games did they release? 5?
Okay, so Saints Row came out in 2006, Saints Row 2 2008, Red Faction Guerrilla 2009, Red Faction Guerrilla Armageddon 2011. So they released a decent amount of games, and then
24 to 28 months.
Yeah, and then Saints Row 3 was also 2011, Saints Row 4 2013.
Yeah.
Gat Out of Hell 2015, which was just an expansion.
Yeah. But I mean, to the point of it is like, you need to know what you are, and you need to be able to produce what you are, and what you are is what you were was a very good AA studio. What you are now is a closed studio because you try to become AAA,
which I think falls down on management in terms of either at Volition or specifically at Embracer, because Embracer has shown that they don't know what they're doing. They just know they bought a bunch of things, and we're going to probably get more Embracer companies or studios closed because Embracer they went on a spending spree without a plan, and they thought everything would come together once they had the IP, or they thought that as soon as they bought all these assets, Stadia would have thrown money at them, or Microsoft would throw money at them, or PlayStation would throw money at them, and it didn't happen. Because those companies didn't really see value in that library after all. And definitely Volition has struggled for a while, because I just don't think they were expecting Saints Row the Third to take off as well as it did. Which is why, Saints Row 4 followed 2 years later, and Saints Row 4 showed signs of oh shit, Saints Row 3 was such a huge success, we need to try and recreate that. And then they tried. Saints Row 4 did relatively well, but then after that they threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at Saints Row 4, to where it was where the fuck do we take the franchise now? And they couldn't figure out where to take it. It almost felt like if they would have maybe slowed down with Saints Row instead of throwing everything all at once, that they probably could have milked Saints Row just a little bit more, as opposed to them doing Agents of Mayhem, which from jump there was too many issues with, in terms of hey, we have this thing where there's 4 characters you can play, and you're multiplayer? No, you just can cycle through them on the fly.
And it played phenomenal. It controlled so well, but I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Well, no, and that was the problem, is so Agents of Mayhem seemed like it was an original idea that they were shit, let's just slap the Saints Row name on it, or unofficially,
which they didn't. Yeah.
Slap Saints Row on it. And then also we as a studio don't have enough money to make this a multiplayer game, even though it should be. And then this turned into kind of a mess of a game. And then Agents of Mayhem, despite not being Saints Row, kind of put an ugly mark on the franchise, to where it took them a long time to figure out what to do with Saints Row. And at that time, the Saints Row they put out, it didn't have the humor. It didn't, I don't know, man. It just felt like the new Saints Row felt like the Steve Buscemi meme of like "Hello, fellow children." Like it just kind of felt like that, to where it just didn't hit. Where older Saints Row fans probably felt a little alienated from it, and then the younger generation it was kind of marketed towards were like, "What is this?"
Yeah, this is not my Saints Row, and somebody else, the older generation is like, this is not my Saints Row. The younger generation's like, what the hell is Saints Row?
Yeah, like why do we want this?
Yeah,
and I still think there would have been a space for them for Volition, especially like their whole thing is like they're in Champaign, so they're right next to Illinois University. Or University of Illinois, to where like that's where a lot of their talent was coming from, was like recent graduates, to where this could have been a really good artillery studio for Embracer Group, but Embracer Group's such a mess that they're just like, let's just close it.
Yeah,
because it was a good incubator space, which is why it lasted for 30 years.
I mean, you were talking about easy internships while they're still working on stuff. Like they could probably commute from campus to the studio when needed.
And that's basically how they survived. And like original THQ, we're using them as an artillery studio as well as working on like all the other stuff that they were working on. It's just I just think Embracer Group, like, this isn't the end of Embracer Group closing studios. Like, I think we're gonna get several more because they have 17,000 employees or some crazy number.
I forgot that it was in Champaign, but I just can't believe that nobody else wanted them. You know, whether you want the IPs or don't want the IPs, and I get it, Embracer's probably not willing to give the IPs. That, to your point, that location's so close to that campus, in terms of just talent turning ability. Yeah. Like somebody like, I mean, I know Activision's going through their thing, but like to your point, like couldn't they become a multiplayer map studio?
Yeah, like,
like Bungie, go get them. You can't make maps anyways.
Especially like in Activision, in terms of like Activision already has like a Wisconsin studio with like Raven. I think Raven's Wisconsin. To where it's just like, hey, we have Midwest studios. Let's see if we can like sink into this talent. But I also think that could be an issue if you're coming from the outside of like, okay, how do we like make a culture in the studio that probably turns through talent? Like you probably go from going to the University of
graduating, work there for 2 years, and then go move out to California.
No, exactly, and it must be very difficult to get a culture going, which is why I think in that 5 years between, Agents of Mayhem and Saints Row, they didn't know the identity of Saints Row anymore, because probably all those people from that, Saints Row 3 and 4 were probably just not there anymore. And they were basically just like, hey kids, make a Saints Row game. And like you said earlier, they were probably like, what's a Saints Row game? And had to work that way. But yeah, still a shame. Hopefully everyone finds, new work or more studios spawn from this, like usually happens. It just worries me that Embracer's not done yet. Like, cause they kept it very vague on how many studios were closing, how many people will be laid off.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the next story, which is SAG-AFTRA is going to vote on whether they're going to strike in the video game industry. So the video game industry may soon find themselves dealing with striking actors, as the union guild will vote on whether they will need to do a strike following negotiations with some of the biggest publishers. Right now they're negotiating with, I had a list, Activision, Blindlight, Disney, Electronic Arts, Epic Games, Formosa Interactive, which I'm not too familiar with, Insomniac Games, Take-Two Productions, Voice Work Productions, and WB Games. So a couple of those are voice actor talent agencies, which probably work with some of the bigger studios. So basically, if they do vote to go on strike, they'll join the Hollywood actors that are currently on strike. And basically their demands are similar to what they're asking for in Hollywood, which are fair wages and compensation in terms of possible royalties, as well as the use of artificial intelligence, which is a huge sticking point right now, because a lot of these companies in Hollywood are like, if you're in our movie or TV show, we have your likeness rights to reproduce you at any time for background acting. And then also this has been a big sticking point in voice acting, is because a lot of companies are trying to get the actors to sign deals where you do voice acting work for them once and then they own your voice to do what they want with for future projects. So I have a feeling this will end up going to strike. I'm hoping I'm wrong because we talked earlier, like the movie and TV industry right now is pretty much at a standstill to where entertainment might be pushed back at least a year or two now at this point from just the couple months that it's been off. So we will see what happens here. I hope the voice actors get what they're looking for, especially when it comes to that AI stuff, because a lot of the AI stuff that companies are trying to do is like complete bullshit. So hopefully they get what they're looking for, but hopefully also we don't get a long-term like issue with like stuff being produced.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me that they're like, I know just off the top of my head, like there's a couple that you listed, like that they're in talks with Activision, like because like here pretty soon Activision's not really going to exist anymore. I mean, do you still think it's going to be called Activision?
Technically, it will be. Like they're going to keep the name. It's going to act as its own company, like Bethesda,
right? So. And I just find it odd that they can talk to Insomniac too without going through Sony. But that's, I mean, I guess that's all hierarchy of business. Maybe that's like above my knowledge level.
It basically is like what actors are already like. Not every voice actor is part of the guild. So, like, I think the reason they're talking Insomniac is the voice actor for Spider-Man is a Hollywood actor as well. Yeah. So he's unionized. So therefore, they have to negotiate.
Yeah, but is he unionized for his voice in a video game? Like, how does that? It's like
technically there is a voice actors union. Remember a couple years ago this happened, and then like some actors were like scabbed out of their roles for like I think Life is Strange. Like Ashley Birch could no longer voice Life is Strange.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just it's interesting to me of like who's in the union, who's not in the union, and it sucks that they've had to get to the point where they need to unionize and companies just can't take care of their people. Yeah. So like that's the part that's ultimately that sucks the most, but it's just like I don't know, man. It's in such a weird spot right now where I'm of two camps. Like you sign better contracts, like no, like you're smarter, like we're like people are smarter and better and things are different now, but I think that if you sign a contract that says that they can do ABC, it's kind of hard to fight against ABC.
The only problem with that line of thinking is streaming did like disrupt all of that stuff, so like a lot of the streaming companies have taken advantage of like, hey, so these agreements that we signed with certain actors, we're still using old terms, and it kind of blanketed stuff to where like Netflix doesn't tell actors like how many people watch their stuff, but they were still forcing actors to basically sign deals that were like, oh yeah, you'll get residuals based on views. You just like we're not going to tell you how many views that are. You're just going to get a check. And I know you have a point of just like they signed better deals, but like Hollywood wasn't budging and everything moved into streaming to where actors signed deals with studios to make the movie, and then those studios then sold the movie to a streamer. So then it kind of just like muddied like who's gonna pay me, and they ended up just getting like shitty checks because you had a lot of, especially during the pandemic, like. How many movies were like supposed to go to theaters? We saw this with Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow.
Yeah.
Where she signed a deal that this will go to theaters, and then Disney's like, it's not, and we'll still pay you your residuals based off how much it makes in theaters, which is going to be zero because it's not releasing in theaters. So there's a lot of things that need to be updated, which is mainly what this strike is doing, especially the artificial intelligence stuff is just kind of wild what they're trying to do. And I think that's probably the most egregious thing. The studios
like the AI stuff is weird to think about, like using like Samuel L. Jackson as an example. Like you could be watching a Marvel movie 10 years from now, and that is that him or is that not, like that's the part that that I agree with kind of sucks. I do like as I think it'll fail in general. It won't work as well as all these people that are freaking out about it, but I do think that using AI properly can be a cost-saving measure, but not a cost replacement measure.
And that's the thing that a lot of the, like, especially in Hollywood, there's a lot of people in charge that don't know exactly how to use it, so they're just thinking they can throw it at anything. Where, like, there's been AI in video games all the time in terms of, like, hey, we're going to have the AI fix that grass. Or, like, Speed Tree. I don't know if you remember that tech from a long time ago, but like SpeedTree is an AI tool that adds foliage to the games. That's an AI tool that like makes sense. But the implementations of AI that they're trying to do towards it's like, you know, they point the AI at like some voice work and are like, yeah, we own this voice now.
Yeah, I just think some of this stuff will kind of work. I mean, unfortunately, it's front and center right now, but it'll kind of work its way out. Like I truly believe it'll work its way out. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we had online passes, and they were trying to combat the used game industry, and that kind of like flattened itself out again. You know, like, and it's just, you know, it's you know, huge millionaires fighting with billionaires, and it kind of looks, you know, it looks bad, but at the same time that I understand that they're fighting for that person that's, you know, only has like 6 lines in a movie.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like they're fighting for the people that are only making like $500 to be in a movie and as a background.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, it's just they're at a tipping point right now, and it's a giant fucking game of chicken. Whoever's gonna swerve first, and more than likely it's gonna be the industry's gonna swerve before the actors are.
Did you see the numbers though? So Warner Brothers said like, in the last 3 months, they've lost like $400 million. And like
that's why that the industry's gonna is gonna swerve,
and they're really trying to like, you know, play tough guy. And then I think it was specifically the Writers Guild is like, all we're asking would cost the industry $43 million over the next 3 years, but they're willing to take $400 million loss.
This is gonna get ugly. This is gonna get ugly by like October 1 because fall seasons of stuff are supposed to be airing.
Yeah.
So in terms of networks going against Tuesday Night Law and Order on September 12th, and their ratings are in the toilet, and the only thing that they can get people to watch on live television right now would be football.
Yeah.
Whether it's college or professional.
You're going to see a big intake in sports. This is when wrestling will probably end up like seeing.
But I'm just saying, like, when the ABC executive wakes up Wednesday morning and looks at his Nielsen chart or whatever, and he's gonna throw up, you know, because
and it's gonna get even weirder because at least right now they can bank on some of the stuff that they finished a while ago, but like come January, February, like, they're not going to have content, and that's where it's going to be crazy. And like in terms of like the effect on the video game industry, it will affect the big studios, but indie studios don't really get affected too much by this because like not everyone is in the guild.
Well,
and you can make.
And I'm not trying to say anything. Right, I'm not trying to say anything bad right now. Like I'll talk about watching like Sea of Stars. Doesn't have a voice actor.
Yeah, and that's how like indie games will end up finding a way to survive. And like
Guacamelee didn't have a voice actor. Nobody Saves the World didn't have a voice actor.
And also indie studios do have the ability, what we're seeing in Hollywood, like movies are still being made in Hollywood right now because indie studios like negotiated with the union to be able to produce, you know, the movie. So indie studios could still, like, if they're not associated with the companies I listed earlier, could still get, you know, some striking actors to work for them, and they'll continue. So we could see like a breakdown in that list that I put. Like, those are all different companies, so each company could strike their own individual deal. Though I'm sure those companies are secretly working together to like make sure like no one buckles, but one of them will buckle and will be able to continue to make games. Or have games with voice acting. So we're going to see a change there. I'm hoping though, because I have seen some backlash of people being like, why do the voice actors deserve residuals? Shouldn't the game devs be the ones getting residuals? And anytime I see that, I just want to be like, you're right. You're almost there. You're almost there in terms of like, yes, they should see some sort of compensation for based on how successful the game is.
Yes, but like a voice actor is brought in for a specific amount of time to do a specific thing.
No, but I'm saying like if the voice actors win in the video game industry, that should spark the developers to be like, what about us? Yeah. And I'm hoping
but there's a lot of developers that aren't under contract and just work,
which is why we're seeing unionization like happen.
Right, but I mean, like I'm saying that for the most part, like if you're a developer for Sony Santa Monica, Yeah, like we've seen times where God of War Ragnarok came out. You know, you're the head director of God of War Ragnarok. Okay, it came out. You don't have a job anymore. That sucks. But you kind of knew what you were doing when you were brought on to do it. And then at the same time, somebody like Neil Druckmann, who on paper right now is probably not technically working on a video game. He, you know, that we are aware of. I'm sure he is, but you know, but he still gets a paycheck every 2 weeks based on he agreed upon a salary, and I don't think that he's under contract. I think he's a permanent employee, and versus the person they bring in to do PR for Last of Us Part 2. Their PR stint expires when the game comes out.
Which, if this leads to like the permanent employees getting residuals or some sort of compensation for how successful the game goes, I think that's a way better system than what currently is in place.
That might already happen, though.
So what is currently in place is like bonuses based off Metacritic, which sucks because
for some,
but like that has been like the standard for like bonuses is like if it does well on Metacritic and then like your game gets review bombed, then it's just like, oh well, you know, sorry, you're not going to get paid that much. So like I think hopefully this does spark developers to kind of ask about like, hey, the video game industry is worth significantly more than the TV and film industry.
Yeah.
Where's our fair compensation? And that won't help anyone, you know, that already signed contracts from the past, but hopefully like future contracts, there'll be something put in that'll help them a little bit, or at least maybe some sort of protection for like when they get laid off, you know, like, cause you have heard of like those bonuses don't come to the people that worked on a game if they got laid off, you know, at, you know, the close to the finish line, because, you know, that's what happens with studios.
They weren't an active employee at the time of payment.
Yeah. And that happens all the time. So hopefully some protections go in there, even if it means like we're going to not have TV shows and movies and potentially some big video games for a little bit. I think it would be worth that. And again, like indie stuff will still exist, so if some of the major stuff takes a hit, oh well, as long as people get like some fair compensation, or at least, sorry I'm like going on a thing, but or at least the talk about it, like some sort of dialogue happens to prevent this in the future,
right?
That leads to better compensation, not prevent as in preventing strikes. I mean like prevent as in people get compensated fairly. But
absolutely,
we'll see. We'll probably find out from this probably by the time we record, because this came up 2 days ago. So I think they're voting Thursday. So we'll find out if we're gonna get a strike or not. But this, I have a feeling we'll probably see a strike. I don't see Activision folding, you know, or Epic Games folding. But I could see. So Dave, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna go on a tangent. I'm gonna ask you a question about this. Do you think Insomniac being a PlayStation or Sony PlayStation studio would affect their ability to negotiate, knowing that Sony Pictures is currently, you know, against
that gets some really blurry lines.
Yeah, I wonder like how that happens.
You can't have Nolan North voice somebody. He's a SAG worker.
I wonder if that plays a part into it for like a Sony in terms of, or like Warner Brother Games is on here. Like Warner Brother Games probably can't agree to anything, because then like that would upset Warner Brothers property.
Well, it's undermining. You're undermining the mothership.
So this might actually get uglier. So I might take back what I said. This might get real ugly because of some parent companies that are involved here. But
we've heard both sides of it though. Like again, like voice actors or actors that went into tried to do some voice acting are like, well, that's just too much work too often. And then actors or voice actors that have tried to become actors are like, I can't do this. You know, they're used to like, it only takes me like 10 takes to do a voice line in a video game. You want me to do this scene 100 times? Like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Peter Dinklage was like, I can't do video games like anymore. No, I'm done. You want
me to come back how often to voice new lines?
And I'm sorry, I love him to death. He does a phenomenal job, but Nolan North can't act.
He can. He just can't do that role. Like.
Yeah. No, I mean he can't act in front of a camera. He can act behind a microphone.
Oh, okay, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the shows I've watched him in, and I'm like, ugh.
Which is why some of these studios are like, well, if you just record once and then we have your voice for, like that's when it gets to the AI stuff. Where I'm sure.
And to your point, the amount of money that they possibly are saving using AI, they should be able to compensate it. Okay, like, yeah, we did not have you do any new voice lines for new IP version 2, but here's your compensation because we used all your voice lines from new IP version 1.
Which is like when we kind of talked about Charles Martinet with Mario. Of just like, were they really having him re-record all of his voices every time?
Yeah.
Did he have that in his contract? Or was Nintendo secretly just reusing his stuff? And did they retire him because they already agreed with him of just like, we own your voice. Like, here's money, we own your voice.
Well, and I think the human aspect of it isn't dumb. If you go to Nolan North and say, hey, we're going to make Uncharted 5, but we don't need you to record any new lines. Here's X dollars, which is 40 or 60% less than what we would pay you to come out here and record new lines. However, we're paying you to do nothing.
And it depends on the individual in terms of just like, that sounds like a good deal, or like, no, I need to put food on my table, so I will want the full compensation. Or what does it turn into of just like, is it 40% every time you use my voice, or is it this one time use my voice? And that's something that they would have to figure out. But also, I don't think the technology's quite there yet. I agree. So like, I'm hoping this AI stuff, if it's gonna happen eventually, I'm hoping it's.
I mean, do you really think that the Link every time he does his heavy breathing is a new recording for every Zelda game?
Currently, right now, I wouldn't be surprised if contracts say like, yes, it has to be, or you have to make a separate deal, and this would iron what that means out. But like, I don't think the AI stuff, like, have you seen the AI commercials and stuff like that have been floating around and stuff? This shit looks
probably
terrible.
Not.
So yeah. Or it's like the Marvel credits for Secret Invasion were all AI generated. You can tell. You can tell. So like, AI stuff's not there.
Is the guy still getting royalties that figured out how to make it sound like the horse was walking, on the radio?
There is a really good like 2-hour documentary on the oomph sound from Roblox. Because someone went to go find out who made that sound, and it led to like a horrible legal battle because it like found where it came from. I recommend looking that up. I forget what it is.
There's a gun in Destiny that sounds like a breast pump.
Because that's how like
that's how sound people work.
Yeah.
So they walk by something because the wind blew a certain way against the sign. They're like, oh, I want that sound.
But you let one of those companies that made the breast pump figure out it was their pump that made that sound, and then that's when you get into like legal trouble of like, that is ours, we can tell. But yeah, if you're interested in this weird stuff, look up that documentary on, I think it's on, damn it, I forgot the guy's name, but there's a funny documentary where they try and find who made the oomph sound from Roblox, and it led to like several lawsuits and all sorts of craziness. But that's all I have for news, Dave. That's all I got.
All right, so quickly, we do have a delay. Alone in the Dark has been delayed from October to January. Is Alone in the Dark supposed to be deemed as a scary game?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is bad.
They even said in the announcement, we know October would have been the perfect time, but we need more time.
Yeah, so that's bad.
Missed your 90 day, Dave. I missed your 90 day.
Yeah, it seems to be par for the course this year.
Yeah.
So and then what we're playing and watching. I'll go real quick because not quick, but I'll just go.
Yeah, just go.
I did. So I did start playing Sea of Stars. Came out last week. Sea of Stars is from Sabotage Studios, the same company that made The Messenger. Years ago, I gave that an award. I had an E3 presentation. It was a fantastic side-scrolling 8-bit game, and Sea of Stars is a top-down or asymmetrical RPG with a timing elements of like the turn-based fighting with the timing elements of like right when you hit, you can get a secondary hit or an extra jolt or a defense by timing it correctly. I feel like it doesn't always work all the time, but it actually says that, hey, don't get frustrated if this doesn't happen all the time. It's a timing thing, and you should be happy when it does happen, but understand that it, like in the verbiage. But overall, like the colors and the environment and the music is just phenomenal. I got like 8 or 9 hours into the game, and then the level layouts, like as you can move around and figure out how to jump things if you can jump something, or find a ladder, let something down to give you a shortcut later, and the dialogue back and forth. Sometimes it gets a little bit too reedy for me, but it's got some witty dialogue back and forth, and it's just really good. It's really, really good. I'm having a blast playing it. It's very rare that I am late to a recording by a couple minutes, and I'm like, I'm working on something. I'm texting Michael like, I'm working on something. I'll be there in like 2 minutes. So that's how much I was enjoying it. It runs great on my ROG Ally. Again, it's not like pushing the limits or anything like that, but it's just nice to kind of sit on the couch and play that. So like I'm super happy with that. It's on PS Plus Extra, and it's on Game Pass. I guess I should look and see how much this actually just cost at base. I would have to say I'd be surprised if it was $60, but
$34.99.
Yeah, okay.
On Steam at least.
So that's a great price for this game so far already. There's some people that I've seen that are like 50 hours into it, and they finished it, or like 100%ed it. I think someone told me about 50 hours was like 100% all the achievements, or platinumed, or whatever. Apparently it slowly starts to open up again, or it opens up a little bit more open world exploration as you get a little farther in. It seems like I'm still a little early on in the game, but I think it's a gem. It's really, really good. I don't know, what have you heard or seen about it?
Everyone loves it. It seems like it is like the indie darling of the year, like already, even though it's this September. It's on my list. I downloaded it. I just didn't get a chance to get to it. Did you say if you're 50-50, right, in terms of on PC and then on the Ally?
Yeah. Well, so today I played on my PC for about 2 hours right before recording, so about 2 hours, and that was the first time I played it on PC. Most of the time or the other time it'd been on the Ally, so like 6 hours on the Ally, on the ROG, and 2 hours on the PC.
Okay. Yeah, no, everything I've heard about it, it's been fantastic. It's another is it Devolver?
Sabotage.
But yeah, no, everything I heard about it sounds like I didn't play The Messenger. Unfortunately, I know it's in the same universe, but it's not really required, right, to play.
No, it's not. Not that I've seen at all.
Okay, yeah, because that was just the thing I was curious about, because it's like in universe, but not a sequel to it. But yeah, I definitely need to actually play it, because again, I downloaded it on Game Pass, so it's sitting on my Xbox, but so is the Starfield download that hit yesterday.
It says it's also a prequel to The Messenger, as events of Sea of Stars evidently segue into the state of the world in The Messenger. So maybe it's good that you haven't played it yet.
Yeah. Prequel means
play it first.
It's a good starting point.
Yeah, I was trying to see who's the publisher.
Since it is a prequel, though, it's like in the universe, does it play significantly more different than Messenger?
Completely different. Okay. I mean, it's a turn-based role play. It's a turn-based role-playing game. Messenger's a side-scrolling.
Okay.
Metroidvania style game. So somebody's telling me there is some Metroidvania elements to this. I have not seen that yet. I just think that I haven't seen it yet. But if it is similar to The Messenger, I'm probably very close to where it takes a significant turn.
Okay.
The Messenger took like an 8-bit turn to a 16-bit turn.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point in time. I have not seen that Sea of Stars takes that big of a turn, but it might be to the point of where like, okay, here's the baseline thing, now the rest of the world's open for you, now go figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
have you been playing with anything else?
No, not really. I didn't realize that like Lies of P is coming to Game Pass.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah, next week, and then Payday is coming as well. Payday 3. So it looks like there's some significant stuff coming. I am in a little bit of a dilemma. So many of you know that I don't have cable TV at all. I do everything through apps, primarily through my Roku. However, I am an avid sports watcher and an avid ESPN watcher, so I use my I have a Spectrum sign-on that I borrow from my parents.
Oh no!
And Spectrum and ESPN are fighting. And Spectrum and Disney are fighting.
Sounds like this one might be a long one too, not like the previous fights.
So they turned it off on the Thursday at about 7:45, 8 o'clock at night Eastern time, right before like Labor Day weekend college football started. So I'm doing okay so far because we're about a weekend, a little bit less than a weekend, and nothing significant has gotten in the way. But Monday Night Football is coming up in like 4 days, and that's on ESPN.
VPN bootleg stream.
So we'll have to see how that goes. I have started looking possibly into YouTube TV or Hulu Live, except for those are like $80 a pop per month.
Yeah.
So
it's cable.
and realistically the only thing that I need it for is ESPN. So like, and for the record, before anybody asks, ESPN Plus does still work, but it does not cover ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News.
I thought it gives you like the live feed on the website at least.
I have to see if it does it on the website.
Double check on the website because I believe that's how I was watching some NBA games last season.
Should be able to do it on a website and just mirror it to my TV.
Yeah.
So I'll have to
try
look
that
into
tonight because I believe that's how I was watching like basic ESPN at one point.
Okay. Have to check that out because that might solve the problem entirely then.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully. If not,
I know on my phone when I try to just like watch SportsCenter or something like that, or watch like click on it, you have to sign in with the TV provider on my phone, but that's on the app.
Yeah.
So
you could try. Otherwise, there's plenty of streams out there.
Yeah. Angel's looking into, like, she's just put it in chat too, like Sling Orange is like a super basic thing at like $20 a month.
Yeah, especially if you're just using it for a sports package, Sling still seems pretty good. And
I'm up the camp though, like with all this crap going on with layoffs and all that stuff too, like I'm at this point, like ESPN, like charge $20 a month, and I'll pay for it.
Well, that's the current problem is.
I think that's what ESPN wants to do, and the cable providers don't want them to do it.
So it's a combination of like. Disney still relies heavily on that extra subsidized price that they get from cable providers, but they also want to have their cake and eat it too. Like, they don't want to lose that subsidized price they get from cable providers, but they also would just like to break off and charge people $20 a month to get their service. And they can't have both, and right now they're being greedy and they want both.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It's going to just lead to them just like, hey, we broke out into an individual service. And we're just going to have to eat the costs of losing.
Because, like, I don't even know, like, does Disney Channel still exist?
Yeah, all that stuff still exists. It's just a matter of...
But everything's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, but they still have contracts with these...
No, I know. So I just don't know why ESPN hasn't done it yet either then, at this point in time.
It's because it was baked so hard into the cable stuff, and they got some really fat contracts from those cable providers.
Yeah.
That probably don't expire soon, or at least Spectrum's expired. And Disney was just like, oh, you're going to give us that fat paycheck again. And then Spectrum is just like, ESPN doesn't pull in what it used to for us because everyone's streaming now as opposed to...
Well, it's all of it, though. It's ESPN, it's Disney, it's...
no, but that's the problem is, like, no one's watching Disney Channel anymore. They're watching Disney Plus, and Disney's still like, you're going to give us the same deal you gave us 10 years ago. And Spectrum's like, we don't want to do that. Because we barely have fucking subscribers right now.
Yeah.
Compared to 10 years ago.
So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I played and watched. I've been watching, like, I watched something showed up on Netflix this week or this month. Snitch, another Dwayne the Rock Johnson a movie that was from 2013. I watched that today. I watched the I don't know if you've seen any of these. Most of them are sports driven, so it probably doesn't interest you. Like the Untold documentary series on Netflix. The Florida Gators is like a 3 or 4 part thing.
Yeah, I watched the one about the player that got catfished a long time ago from Notre Dame.
Yeah,
and then I watched the Malice in the Palace.
Yeah, and then they've done one recently. They've done the Florida Gators in like 2004 to 2007.
Yeah.
They just did one on Balco, the steroid guy. Victor Conte, and they did one on Johnny Manziel. The Johnny Manziel one is kind of fascinating in terms of the money that he, like, what was going on with that and kind of his bravado.
Yeah.
So, but I've been watching those. Those are solid. I mean, sometimes I doze when I watch them, but for the most part, they're solid. So you should, if you're a sports fan at all, you should check those out. Although I did not really enjoy the Balco steroid run as much. I figure like as much, because that was like prime era baseball for me, and as much as they could have talked about, I was like, they did not go into it very much. So
yeah, that stuff's always fascinating. I remember reading books during that time and being fascinated, but I think that territory's been so examined that it's hard to add anything new to it. Dave, this wasn't in the news, but I'm going to add it right now. Skull and Bones has lost its third creative director, and there's no longer a internal release date for the game. Thoughts?
It just came out on beta. They had a closed beta on PC that it sounds like it was doing pretty well.
And it lost its creative director from that beta. And there's no release date anymore for it, like internally. So they pulled the March 2024 internally that fiscal year.
Jeez.
So yeah, Skull and Bones. We might have to just do a bet. Like we pick a day and we just see if it comes out that day. But yeah, my playing and watching is going to be pretty simple. I did not pay the extra $30 to get Starfield early because that's why I'm paying for Game Pass, and it would have just defeated the purpose of my current Game Pass subscription if I spent the $30 upgrade to get it a couple days early. So playing has been very much retro gaming. Adrian Rip, who pops up in the chat pretty frequently, he had purchased me a gift last year of the Analogue Pocket, which is this little handheld device shaped like a Game Boy that can play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. As well as if you have an adapter, it can do Game Gear and like some portable Atari thing, which I don't know because I'm not that old. But
Jeez.
it does it plays actual legitimate cartridges, so it's not just an emulator. It can actually play hardware for these games, and it has a ton of different features. It has a really nice LCD screen. It has save states, which is pretty huge for 30-year-old games.
So I want to say something that part of the reason I think I was late. I'm not confident with Sea of Stars. When you said the save state, it rang a bell for me. Okay. So Sea of Stars has save points as you walk around the world. Like you walk up to like a book and you open the book and you can save the game. I do not think it has an autosave feature, which is part of the reason I was late, because I had like those save states, those save spots don't seem to be close enough. Like I think I was playing like 45 minutes or an hour until I found another one. So that's I feel like there was one time that my ally crashed. It might have died. Battery might have died, and I went back like 20 minutes at least.
That sucks. Well, this I will also say it has save states and it works probably 80% of the time, which is a little bit of a bummer. But it's I can't really complain too much about it because like save states didn't exist on Game Boy Color's game, Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. So the fact that the system could do save states or at least like sleep the wake, modern technology is really good when it works, and when it doesn't work, I can't get too mad at it because it was a feature that just didn't exist previously for that hardware or for those games. The other adapters for it that you can buy separately is TurboGrafx 16 adapter, Neo Geo Pocket adapter, and an Atari Lynx adapter. So out of the box without those adapters, it plays Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games, and it runs them pretty much flawlessly. Like the actual hardware just feels super premium. This is like a $200 piece of hardware that I had to wait a year to get because the pre-orders were so backed up. But being able to play like those games on a nice screen and have like cool features like the save and wake state when it works, and also since it's an LCD and modern technology, it can do different like screen like visuals, so like it can mimic the LCD screen of past with like some scan lines, and it also has different shaders as well. So if if you want to,
your games don't look good.
yes, they still do look good on it because the screen's just doing it. For the most part, I'm staying away from those like filters. I'm just doing like
I think scan lines look terrible.
Yeah. It's cool to turn on once or twice to get like that little nostalgia hit, but like its LCD screen is beautiful. So seeing these games in a way you have never seen them before, like with clean, pixels without like the scan lines interrupting the image, it just makes the games kind of feel like brand new games for you. Especially, some of the older games, the Game Boy Color games specifically, because you've never seen them look this good. That is my phone. I got a text message.
No, you're fine. Yeah. I was making sure it wasn't something like going wrong with my computer or something.
Yeah. The cool thing about this is it has open hardware, so people have made games for it because there's like a studio tool to where you can make your own Game Boy games for it. But also it has open operating system to where people have turned it into an emulator. So you don't necessarily need those adapters to get Game Gear games on here if you have the original ROMs. But people have also found a way to get NES games on it, SNES games on it through emulation. So the hardware can handle pretty well emulating those if you don't have the cartridges for them. Especially me personally, I have a ton of Game Gear games, but I have no way of playing them because the Game Gear I have is like long been dead. And the adapter from them is, gonna take like who knows how many months to get here because that is also on back order. So being able to download some Game Gear ROMs for games I already own, I just want to let everyone know I'm not pirating. It is really nice to be able to get the ROMs onto this thing, and it's pretty easy. The modding community has made like the work almost effortless of what you need to do to get the emulators up and running on your system. It's been really nice to just kind of get that nostalgia hit. Like I immediately like looked at my Game Gear collection because I have my Game Gear collection is games that I actually like from the Game Gear. It's not just random garbage. So just like going through my Game Gear pile of like, yes, I want all the Power Ranger games that released on the Game Gear and all the Spider-Man games from the Game Gear, and then getting them on the system through an emulator has been really nice. Have I run into the instance of old game is old? Yes, I have run into that, but it is cool to just boot up a game for a couple minutes.
That's 10 minutes. Yeah, those 10 minutes of fun is always good.
Yeah, especially we're talking about Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games.
Yeah.
Those, for the most part, were like, I'm going to boot this on for like 20 minutes and then turn it off, especially when you have the X-Men Marvel beat 'em ups and all that other stuff. So like this piece,
you're like, how did I play this game when I was 12? Damn, I suck.
Yeah. Or just like, how did this entertain me for multiple weeks? Has been a common thing. But overall, like I'm really impressed with like this hardware and just like where the community for this is going in terms of what they can do. Like Analogue themselves have put updates on it and added features to it already. I'm hoping they can fix like the save state stuff just a little bit, because again, I think it works like 80% of the time. But in terms of like the actual physical hardware, this thing feels pretty damn good. Like it feels like premium.
Nice.
Like
it looked cool. The picture you posted.
Yeah. No, it looks super cool. Like it almost looks too nice. Like I got the white one, and I'm almost like, do I need to put a sticker on this or something just so it, I can keep it clean. But like overall, like the D-pad feels pretty good. The actual like face buttons feel good. The only thing I think don't feel too great are the shoulder buttons, because it's it's shaped like a Game Boy. Those shoulder buttons are really close to the cartridge. So just you're kind of scratching the sides of the cartridge because of how it's sitting. How
often do you use the shoulder buttons?
For Game Boy Advance games. A lot of those use shoulder buttons.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
So
I was processing. I'm like, wait, Game Gear didn't have shoulder buttons.
Yeah, no, it literally only comes into play when you go to Game Boy Advance games. Okay. But if you're just playing like Game Boy Color and Game Gear games, you're fine.
I mean, remember, you and I didn't know that the S didn't take a disc.
Yeah. So, but I'm glad you caught this, and your brain was like doing the calculations of just like, that doesn't sound right. But yeah, so like when you're playing like a Game Boy Color, Game Boy game, Game Gear game, you're not using the shoulder buttons at all. But when you're doing a Game Boy Advance games, shoulder button placement isn't optimal, or it's where it needed to be, but like it doesn't make the cartridge feel much more secure because you're brushing up against it.
So, do you take a bag to work when you go to the office?
I do sometimes, but this is...
Do you see this going in the bag for lunch?
Maybe. I could see this living at the office because
Okay.
I would be worried about breaking it because I don't have a shield for it or a case for it.
Okay.
So I could...
I'm kind of in that conundrum with my ROG. Like, I'm supposed to take an hour lunch. You've worked in retail long enough to know, like, I don't have the attention span to take an hour lunch.
It took me a long time to get used to an hour lunch. It's weird.
Yeah, so like you're lucky if you get like 15 minutes. Okay, all right, I ate my food, I'm done. Like, you know, so, and then I don't have as much of a I don't have my own office for my job now. Like it's just a manager office.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine. Like, by the way, but it's like I don't have my own space in the store where I could just be and shut the door if I wanted to for, oh, he's on lunch, he's like not in the building or whatever. So I don't know if I like, not that I care, but my associates would walk into the break room and I'm playing my ROG.
Yeah. It would be more annoying because you'd get questions about like, oh, what's that? That looks pretty cool. And you're just like, I just want to play my game.
I don't have enough staff to do that. I mean, I do and I don't, but I have brought it to work before, and some of my, because I do get like a lot of my staff in terms of like buying gifts for other people. They're like, hey, like, is this any good, or should I get this? Or like one of my main managers is thinking about buying a PC or a PlayStation, you know, and I'm like, well, it's hard to tell that right now.
Yeah. I like the only thing, like, because this feels like a premium product, I don't know if I would want to risk putting it in my backpack from time to time, because my previous job, I kept the DualShock controller at my previous job so that I could do Game Pass streaming. Yeah. So like I would probably still bring like one of my modded Game Boys to work and leave at the office if I really wanted to play something. But this thing, I don't know. I'm still treating it like I've only had it for a week. I'm treating it like it's like some precious item, you know, where I'm like cleaning it,
still wiping the fingerprints off every time.
Pretty much, yeah. Because again, the quality feels like really high.
You should Discord or tweet some pictures of like the games on it.
Yeah, I'll probably do that today, just to throw on
the picture. I think you sent out of it on our Discord. I think it just had it like in the box.
Yeah, I had not set it up. Literally, I was just giddy because I'm just like, oh my god, look how pretty this looks. But yeah, on Sunday we were running errands. I took it to church. Ansel was doing some volunteer work at church. I took my ROG Ally to church, and it's like we have a large, huge, humongous lobby at my church, and I just found a place to kind of sit and put the headphones in and just play for an hour. Just playing Bayonetta, just killing demons while at church.
Sea of Stars.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I'll probably put some pictures on Discord of some games running on it, because I can't really stream from it because this won't translate. Right. But some pictures will pop pretty nicely. But that's pretty much all I've been doing.
Sir, you could like get a stand for your phone and go live on Twitch on your phone while you're holding.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the audio quality would be fantastic. Well, technically, if I bought the dock, I could stream the dock, like the raw gameplay. But that just seems like who would want to watch me play Tetris for 45 minutes?
So you're okay. So again, it's called an Analogue Pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the retail value of this thing?
Analogue Pocket. Let me look it up currently because it is. I want to say
it's hard to get right now. It's hard to get.
If you pre-order it, you're probably looking at like 6 months before you get it. It almost took a year to get it. It's $200.
Okay.
And it is.
And it can play
Game Boy.
Roughly, it can play
Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance out of the box, and the cartridges. That's the key thing. It can play the actual cartridges. But it also can handle Game Gear, Neo Geo, and Atari Lynx if you get adapters. But you can circumvent all of that and download some emulators, and it could run.
Dude, I remember when Neo Geo was like the creme de la creme in like the mid '90s. That if somebody had a Neo Geo, they had a lot of money, and now you're sitting there, Neo Geo's running on an Analog Pocket.
Yeah, no,
25 years later.
It's kind of wild. But yeah, it could handle every console up until Game Boy Advance, basically.
Okay.
Because after Game Boy Advance, you run into
and it has the form factor of a Game Boy.
Yes, it's a little beefier Game Boy. It's probably a little bigger than a Game Boy.
A little thicker.
Yeah, it's a little thick boy. But yeah, I haven't even really dove into like the indie games that have been made for it.
So you're talking about modern games
for it. Yeah, because they do have something called the...
So they have a storefront?
Yes, GB Studio is the software, and then you can find games for it on the website. Like, you have to go to like a website to find the games, because the internet connectivity on the device doesn't
You keep
exist.
telling me you're going to send me some emulation links for my ROG.
Oh, yeah. What were you looking for specifically?
I don't know.
You don't know. You just want to dick around with it? Okay, yeah, I'll send you some stuff. Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty good. Good battery life on it, especially it's playing old games.
Nice.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where like I recommend if you have the money to put towards it, and you really do see yourself playing these handheld games. Like it's a cool curiosity, and it's just nice playing Game Gear games again and not needing like 8 AA batteries. So
I remember that
because I don't think I ever finished a Game Gear game because of battery bullshit.
Yeah.
So being able to like finish some Game Gear games is kind of nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, but that's it for me.
All right. So we did not ask for any questions or comments. However, we did ask for them last week, and I actually did get a couple responses. So we talked about the PS Plus price increase, and I wanted to hear people's like return on investment on it. So Rennie510 on Twitter says, I have PS Plus Extra. In the past 3 months, I have finished The Quarry and Ghost of Tsushima, playing Stray and Returnal. Ghost of Tsushima to purchase was close to the price of PS Plus Extra for the year, and other games, and with other games, it's a no-brainer. Awesome. And then Kyle, so WXmen Kyle, he said, I forgot to send you mine, Dave. Just this year, I have played and platinumed Siphon Filter, Super Stardust Portable, which I think he just loaded up Stardust Portable and it re-platinumed for him. Toem, Jumping Flash, Tashia, and Twisted Metal on PS Plus Premium. And currently he's on the platinum pace for Sea of Stars and Humanity. So, I mean, I think if, and I don't know Rennie's situation, but I am aware that we have a lot of primarily PlayStation fans in that are a good chunk of our audience. All I'm saying is now, the perspective that I'm trying to give is like I can stand back and look at all four. I have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation, I have a Switch, I have a PC, and I'm trying to figure out what I need or what I don't need. And somebody's like, oh well, you need PS Plus for Destiny. Not anymore. Not with crossplay and Discord integration. I can buy it on PC and I can talk to people on Discord that are playing on PlayStation. And yeah, Sea of Stars is fantastic. It's on Game Pass, so I don't need to upgrade my PS Plus. There just hasn't been anything for me on PS Plus in the last 6 to 9 months that has drawn my attention of where I want to download and play it. There hasn't been a Nobody Saves the World on day one. Sea of Stars, yes, is I think Sea of Stars might be the most recent release date game on Plus on any of the services since Stray.
Was that Roller Dome game one as well?
Maybe
like a couple months after Stray, but yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, compared to yesterday, everybody got Starfield.
Yeah, and Lies of P in a week and a half.
Yeah, and Payday, and I don't know. Like right now, it's just, and maybe I thought maybe it was like, oh, there's this big back library that I never played. I'm not playing them. I'm playing, like current stuff. And I realized too, like Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Wonder come out on the same day.
Yeah, what did you watch the Sorry to sidetrack.
I didn't watch the direct.
Okay.
No, I didn't watch the direct yet. I saw that it was 6 days ago. I didn't realize it was 6 days ago. I knew it was happening, but I didn't know it was like last week. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't need a direct for Mario.
No, I was
gonna
say like it was like this looks like a good Mario game. Is what I walked away from.
But it's like, it's now Owen is as an 8-year-old. Like we're talking to him like, okay, do you want Spider-Man day one or do you want Mario day one? And he's like, That's a really hard decision, Dad. I'm like, you gotta pick one, man. I can't drop $150 on one day.
Not love him.
Like, so it
Give
probably is gonna be
some sugar and
it's probably gonna be Spider-Man, and we'll get Mario in a couple weeks after, because Mario's never gonna go on sale, so it's not like
Spider-Man won't either anytime soon.
No, Spider-Man won't either, and we have a higher chance of doing Spider-Man coverage or spoiler cast than we do of a Super Mario Wonder spoiler cast. So, but that's great. I love that I heard from a couple members of the community. I had to prod it out a little bit, but one guy did. I noticed Rennie did respond, so thank you, Rennie. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're getting what you want out of it. But I'm just struggling to see the value now. I mean, I kudos to those people that are stacked, for months to come on PS Plus. Kudos to those people that converted their $1 Xbox Live thing to Game Pass, whatever. Like anybody that did those smart things. But I'm unless something changes in the next 7 months, I'm probably gonna have a hard time justifying a renewal on PS Plus. Unless and don't get me wrong, something might come out and I'll renew it immediately. Like, I'm not going to be one of these people that holds a grudge. If something grabs my attention, I'm going to renew it. Like that, it's going to happen, and I'm going to renew it for $80.
I regret getting premium for the year that I got premium because there was no way for me to stack the regular month before shit changed, which is unfortunate. So I'm going to say
I've seen an article already. Like, when does the price change go into effect?
Today, I think.
Okay. I saw headlines the other day of people stacking it prior to the change.
Yeah. If you're staying on the same tier, you're able to stack no problem. I'm not on the same tier, so I was just like, shit, okay.
I mean, I don't have to make any decision until May of next year, so I'll have enough information at that point in time. But right now, if you ask me to choose, like if I could cancel, if I could only keep Game Pass or PS Plus, currently, right now, with my situation that I talked about with Game Pass Ultimate and my PC and my ROG and my Xbox, like I'm keeping Game Pass over Plus right now.
Yeah, and I'm at the point where I will probably let PlayStation Plus lapse next year because I think mine comes up in February, and then Game Pass, I'm going to do what I'm currently doing, where I just get 3 months at a time when there's stuff that interests me.
But like ultimately, like a lot of the times PS Plus was for online play. I've talked about it with Destiny, but like, forgive the analogy, Michael, but like gun to your head, Factions 2 comes out December 1st and it's online. It's an online only game. Is it coming to PC and PlayStation at the same time?
What was that? Sorry.
Factions 2, if it comes out December 1st, okay, is it coming to PC and PlayStation on the same day?
If they're smart, yes. Yes.
Okay. So if it's going to come in my situation, in the chair I'm sitting at right now, I can play Factions online on my PC for free.
Yeah, though I still think Factions won't be free to play. So,
well, but again, so $60, $70
plus your
plus, or $70.
Yeah, I would probably pick it up on PC and hope PlayStation really is good at getting the cheaters on PC. Or insert any games as service that's coming out in the next 8 years, allegedly. Well, it's like if I had to choose, if I didn't have Game Pass right now and I didn't have PlayStation Plus and I really wanted Sea of Stars and I didn't want to pay for it, I would lean towards Game Pass. And
because of what else comes with it.
Yeah.
Because it's Starfield and Sea of Stars and Payday and Lies of P.
Yeah.
In the next month for you.
Exactly.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And like I would really have to look at the PlayStation stuff, and also because I tend to buy my games on PlayStation, so like,
yeah. But Sea of Stars has also tweeted that they sold 250,000 copies.
Yeah, for an indie game a week out, like that's fantastic.
Yeah, on top of Game Pass and Plus.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that these subscription services hurt sales. If your game is good and it gets talked about, whether they're on the subscription service or not, they're gonna buy it or play it.
Yeah,
both are good.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of the narrative of the subscription services is hurting gaming. Tired of it. Like Sea of Stars is showing that, and the concurrent players on Steam on Starfield Early Access says you're wrong also, because those people that were, I think at one point in time it was like almost 500,000.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, close to like 488,000 concurrent players over the third largest Steam. All of those people that were on Steam paid $100 for the game.
Yeah.
So $100 times 500,000 is a lot of dollars. I'm not doing the math and getting in trouble again. That's a lot of dollars. And like the Steam number is not going to, and for those naysayers too, like, oh look, the Steam number didn't increase on the day the game came out. Yeah, because they bought Game Pass and they're playing it on PC, on Microsoft.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody that was gonna buy the game probably just bought it on Steam because that's where they're gonna be. But now that's like, oh, if you're gonna buy this, just buy Game Pass. If you're gonna play it on the 1st, the 2nd, or the 5th, 6th, or 7th, or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's gonna chart an MPD for September. Yeah, Starfield will. So, all right, you got anything else?
Nope, that's it for me, Dave.
All right, cool. So you can follow us on our socials at Digital Days Pod. You can follow Michael at The First MJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group, Discord server are linked in the show notes. Click on those and you can request admittance to the Facebook group. You can join the Discord server. There's a bunch of different channels in there that you can discuss things. The collection channel has been going kind of crazy with some of the stuff that Michael and Grey Ghost have been buying. Other people have been buying some more physical copies of stuff. I expect to see a random Game Gear game in there or something probably now that he has a device to play it. And Patreon is there as well. Thank you. We've got a couple new Patrons, which kind of sparks the conversation around having to do stuff because we haven't been doing as great of a job with Patreon as we should, but we can catch up. And that's it for me as well. So I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.